Yeah, that feeling, right? When you've got truly insightful data, maybe research that's uh, genuinely groundbreaking.
Yeah.
But when it comes time to share it, the room's energy just flatlines, like
Yeah.
faster than a drop souffle.
Oh, absolutely. We've all been there or seen it happen.
Exactly. So today, we're diving deep into that specific problem.
Yeah.
How do you take information that could actually change minds and, well, present it so it captures attention? You know, ditching the data dumps for something compelling.
That's the mission. We want to move beyond just sort of conveying information. The goal is to truly command attention
Right.
and equip you with strategies not just to present, but to really connect. Think of it like transforming complex stuff into something not just understandable, but genuinely engaging.
Like making quantum physics sound like gossip almost.
Oh, maybe not that easy, but yeah, getting that kind of clarity, something that cuts through the noise and actually sticks with your audience.
Okay, so our focus today, and this comes straight from our research, is on a few key areas. We'll start with crafting that immediate hook. Those first few seconds are critical.
Crucial.
Then we'll dig into how to weave data into actual stories, making the numbers resonate.
Making them human.
Yeah. And we'll also look at vocal delivery, often overlooked, but so powerful. Plus, designing slides that actually help, not hinder.
Definitely need to cover slide crimes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And finally, some strategies for handling the Q&A session, with confidence.
Okay, let's start right there with that initial impact, the hook. It's really about how you interrupt whatever your audience is thinking about and just pull them in.
Right?
And the sources we looked at really stress moving away from those, standard predictable openings.
Yeah, we all know the classic. Today I'm going to talk about it's practically a signal to check your phone.
Exactly. It's a non-starter.
So what works better? How do we grab them right away?
Well, one really powerful technique uses surprise. You present a statistic that sounds significant, but you hold back the key bit, the unexpected conclusion for a moment.
Okay.
So, for instance, instead of saying my talk is on team dynamics, you could start with, in the next 5 minutes, statistically, one person in this room will feel completely unheard. Pause. What if I told you we could change that?
Ooh, okay. That lands differently. It's immediately personal, a bit jarring.
Right. It presents this relatable problem and sets up an expectation. You've created a little gap, an incongruity that people naturally want resolved.
That's smart. It creates an instant question in their mind, not just stating a fact, but posing a mini puzzle. What else? What are other ways to spark that initial interest?
Another way is to open with a very short, maybe seemingly unrelated personal anecdote. The key, though, is it has to be intriguing. It needs to create curiosity about how on earth it connects to your topic, which, you reveal a bit later.
Give me an example.
Okay, imagine you're presenting on, say, complex global supply chains. You could start with, I once spent 3 entire days trying to find a specific shade of blue paint for my daughter's school project.
Okay, I'm listening. Where's this going?
Exactly. See, it seems random, but it humanizes you, and the audience leans in, wondering about the link you're about to make. It plays on our desire for stories, for connection.
I like that. It's a little narrative tease. Makes you feel like there's a story unfolding. Okay, and you mentioned a third approach.
Yeah, the third one is direct audience engagement, using a really well-crafted question.
Not just any question, though.
No, not rhetorical. It
Ah.
needs to prompt immediate, maybe even just internal participation. Something like, think about the last time you felt totally overwhelmed by data. What was the breaking point?
Ah, okay.
Or maybe, has anyone here ever known you had a great solution, but you really struggled to get buy-in?
Right. That immediately makes it about them, about their experience. It's relevant and inclusive.
Precisely. So the common thread is disrupting expectations, creating that immediate relevance or, intrigue.
Okay, that makes sense for the opening. Now let's get into the data itself. How do we stop it from being, well, dry numbers on a page and turn it into something that tells a story, something that resonates?
This is where we really shift gears. It's moving beyond just listing data points to actually weaving them into a narrative, making it human.
Right.
And our sources point to 3 really effective techniques here. First is the power of comparison.
Comparison. Okay.
So instead of just giving an abstract figure, you anchor it to something people can relate to, something they understand the scale of.
Like.
Well, say you're talking about a market downturn, maybe a loss of, I don't know, $10 billion. Instead of just saying the number, you could say that's roughly equivalent to the entire annual revenue of the global film industry.
Wow. Okay, that puts it into perspective immediately.
Exactly. Most people can grasp that scale. It leverages our understanding of everyday sizes and values. It makes the incomprehensible.
That's really helpful. Transforms a big number into something tangible. What's the second technique for humanizing data?
The second is personification.
Personification, giving it human traits.
Sort of. It's either giving the data some human-like quality or, more often, focusing on the individual human impact behind the numbers.
How does that work in practice?
So instead of just stating customer satisfaction dropped 15%, you could frame it as imagine 15 out of every 100 people you talk to feeling unheard, feeling frustrated. That's the human story behind this 15% decline.
Ah,
Or you could even share a specific anonymized story, an anecdote that illustrates what that data point actually means for a real person, taps into our empathy.
yeah, that definitely makes it more emotionally resonant. It's not just a metric anymore, it's a human experience. Okay, and the third technique for data storytelling.
The third one involves playing with time. We're calling it time travel.
Time travel. Okay, intrigued again.
It's about strategically shifting the temporal perspective, looking across different time frames to reveal trends or maybe highlight critical moments or just provide crucial context.
So zooming in and out on the timeline.
Exactly. You might start by saying, okay, let's look back at this metric over the last 10 years. See the overall trajectory.
Right.
But now you might say, let's zoom right into this specific quarter. Notice the sharp drop right after we introduced that new policy. It adds dynamism, helps show cause and effect.
So it's not just a static snapshot.
Hmm?
It's a journey through the data. It gives it a narrative arc.
Precisely.
Okay, these three techniques, comparison, personification, time travel, they really highlight how inadequate those typical data slides are, don't they?
Oh, completely.
You know the ones. We saw references to that Shapefile slide, like figure 12.7, quarterly growth metrics, 2018, 2022, just a wall of numbers.
Yeah, that kind of slide basically asks the audience to do all the heavy lifting, the analysis, the interpretation. That's the presenter's job, which actually leads us nicely into how you deliver this whole compelling story. The role of your voice, it's such a powerful tool.
Absolutely. It can make or break it, can't it? Your delivery can amplify points, create connection, or, well, put everyone to sleep.
Exactly. Even with a great story.
So what are the key things we need to consciously manage with our voice?
There are three main elements, according to the research: volume, pace, and interestingly, silence.
Okay. Volume. That seems obvious, but maybe not just being loud.
No, definitely not just loud. It's about using emphasis, stressing key words or phrases to signal their importance. Think about the difference if you say, this is important in a flat monotone versus hitting the word important with a bit more force and maybe inflection.
Yeah, it guides the listener's ear to what really matters, creates vocal signposts. Okay, what about pace?
Varying your pace is absolutely crucial. It keeps things engaging. You might slow right down when you're introducing a really critical piece of information, let it sink in, and then maybe you speed up a little when you're running through supporting details or trying to build a bit of excitement or urgency. That variation stops it becoming monotonous.
Makes sense. Keeps the audience locked in. Now, the third one, silence. That feels counterintuitive. Aren't we supposed to fill the space?
But strategic silence is incredibly powerful. A well-placed pause. It can build anticipation right before a big reveal. Or it can give your audience just a beat to process something complex. Or sometimes a pause can emphasize a point more effectively than shouting it ever could. It signals confidence, lets the message land.
That's a really insightful point. I remember our sources even mentioned that exercise, saying the phrase, the results were significant in different ways.
Yes, to convey doubt or neutrality, or it's truly groundbreaking.
Right. It just hammers home how much meaning comes through the voice, way beyond the actual words.
Exactly. Becoming aware of these vocal tools is just key. Okay, so voice is crucial. Now let's turn to the visuals, the slides.
Ah, yes, the slides, the potential minefield.
Right. They're meant to support you, but so often they become a massive distraction. We've all suffered through death by PowerPoint.
Oh, the dreaded wall of text. The charts you can't read. The animations bouncing all over the place. What are the biggest slide crimes we need to avoid?
Several big ones stand out. One is violating what some call the 5-second rule.
5 seconds, meaning
meaning the core message, the main point of any slide, should be graspable by your audience in about 5 seconds. If they have to spend ages reading or deciphering it, it's probably too complicated or just too much on there.
Okay, keep it instantly understandable. What else?
Another common one is the font felony, using fonts that are too small. The recommendation is generally nothing smaller than, say, 24 points for body text.
24 points. That sounds quite big when you're typing it, but I guess on a screen, far away.
Exactly. It prioritizes readability for everyone in the room. Anything smaller is just asking for squinting and frustration.
Good point. Okay, another crime.
Animation abuse. Look, subtle animations can occasionally help direct attention, maybe reveal points one by one,
Right.
but using more than 1 or 2 different effects across your slides, or having things fly in from all directions, it just turns into this distracting visual circus. Keep it minimal, keep it purposeful.
So the mantra is clarity, conciseness, readability. Basically, less is more.
Pretty much. Simple and clear wins every time.
Our research even suggested that before-after slide concept, showing a cluttered slide transformed into a clean one, that visual itself is pretty persuasive.
Absolutely. It drives the point home instantly. Okay, so we've hooked them, we've told a story with the data, we've delivered it well with voice and visuals. What's the final hurdle?
Like a Q&A.
The Q&A session, which, let's be honest, can feel pretty high pressure for a lot of presenters.
You can definitely feel like you're stepping into the hot seat.
Yeah.
So what are some techniques, maybe some Q&A Jedi mind tricks to handle those tricky questions with, grace and confidence?
Okay, let's take a few scenarios. First, what if you get a question that just stumps you? You genuinely don't know the answer.
Yeah, the nightmare scenario. What do? Fake it?
No, definitely don't fake it. Resist that urge. Instead, you use a pivot, a statement like, that's a really interesting question. While I don't have the specific data on that right here, what I can speak to is the broader trend, which shows.
Okay. So you acknowledge it, state what you don't know, but then bridge to something related that you do know.
Exactly. It keeps you credible without having to guess or bluff.
Smart. Okay, what about those audience members who seem determined to challenge you? They disagree with your findings or your conclusion.
Yeah, the challengers. For them, a really effective approach is to first acknowledge their perspective. Show you've heard them.
Oh.
Using phrases like, I appreciate you bringing that perspective up. It's certainly a valid consideration. Then, after acknowledging, you explain your reasoning. Here's why our analysis led us to this conclusion, or we did factor that in, and here's how.
Okay, so acknowledge, then explain. It sounds less defensive, more constructive.
Right. It helps de-escalate potential conflict and keeps the focus on the substance.
Makes sense. And finally, what about those ramblers? The ones who ask these long, meandering, multi-part questions where you kind of lose the thread halfway through.
Yes, the ramblers. With them, the key is to gently guide them back to the core issue. You need to help them and the audience focus.
How do you do that without sounding rude?
You can say something like, okay, thank you for that. So, if I'm understanding correctly, is the central part of your question about, or just to make sure I'm addressing your main point, are you asking about?
You reframe it. You pull out the core question.
Exactly. It clarifies the issue for everyone and helps you give a focused, efficient answer.
Those are really practical, usable strategies. I remember our sources even mentioned that pro tip, arranging with a colleague beforehand to ask a specific question early on.
Yeah. The spy question.
Right. Just to break the ice, maybe get the ball rolling, or even ensure a key point you wanted to make gets highlighted again.
It's a smart tactic. It can also just help settle your nerves at the start of the Q&A.
Definitely. Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the main takeaway? What's the mission for you, our listener, based on all this?
Well, I think there are a couple of really concrete challenges here. First one, based on our sources, find one statistic, just one number from your own work, maybe one you find tricky to explain,
Okay.
and figure out how you could make it relatable, understandable to a 10-year-old.
A 10-year-old test. I like it.
Right?
If you can make it clear and engaging for them.
You're probably well on your way to making it engaging for almost any audience. It forces that simplicity and relatability.
Great challenge. What's the second one?
Second challenge, record yourself. Just giving a short presentation, maybe even just a few minutes, on any topic you know well.
Okay, brave step.
It can be, but then watch it back. And be critical, but constructive. Ask yourself honestly, would I pay attention to this? Where could I use a better hook? Could I tell that story better? Is my voice flat?
It's about self-awareness, applying these ideas directly to your own style.
Exactly. Identify one or two things to work on from what we've discussed.
Excellent. All right, looking ahead, next time on the deep dive, we're going to be tackling something equally important: the art of persuasion. Specifically, how you can influence people even when you don't have direct authority.
Ooh, that's a big one. Very useful.
Definitely. But until then, maybe one final thought for you to chew on, inspired by our research today.
Yeah.
Think about your next presentation. Instead of seeing it as just reading footnotes or reciting facts, approach it like you're revealing secrets, important insights that people need to know.
Revealing secrets.
Yeah. Ask yourself, what are the real secrets hidden inside my data? What captivating stories could it tell if only I present it in a truly compelling way?